The latest. Thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. While the world was looking elsewhere, a silent earthquake just shook the foundations of West Africa. On April 18, 2026, the city of Lomé has become the capital of African defiance. The Togolese strategy is no longer a rumor. It is a reality that has sent shockwave through the halls of Ecowas and beyond. Why is Togo, a nation once seen as a quiet mediator, now opening its arms and its deep water port to the alliance of Sahel states? Is this the birth of a new economic powerhouse? History has been made. This is what we are looking for, unity, because Togo made it clear to the whole world that they will always stand by the leaders in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, AES or leaders. History is not made by the timid, it is made by the bold. Today, under the leadership of President Faure Yadama, Togo has unveiled a forward-looking initiative that many try to analyze before it could draw its first breath. This isn't just a meeting, it is a gathering of the giants. We are talking about the foreign ministers of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, the three leaders of AES, sitting at the same table as the UN, the EU, and even representatives from Russia. The alliance of the Sahel state is now the goose that lays the golden eggs.
Togo's new strategy for the Sahel is the expression of our clear vision, that of stateful commitment to long-term action, responsibility, and strategic foresight. It reflects a profound conviction in a changing environment. Inaction is not an option. Inaction is not isolation, and isolation is not the answer.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, members of the diplomatic corps and representatives of international organizations, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as is customary, in your respective ranks, positions, and capacities, and with all protocols observed. Naturally, my first words will be to express the cordial and fraternal greetings of the Malian delegation and on its behalf. I extend our sincere thanks to the government of the Republic of Togo for the warm welcome and generous hospitality. I also convey the appreciation of His Excellency, Army General Assimi Goïta, President of the Transition, Head of State, as well as that of the government of the Republic of Mali, to the highest authorities of Togo in particular, for their personal involvement through His Excellency's strong commitment. Eso Simna Nyasimbe, President of the Council, for the actions he undertakes on behalf of Togo in favor of peace, security, stability, and development in the Sahel region, throughout West Africa, and even the entire African continent. In general, I fully endorse the statement made by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Burkina Faso, the country currently holding the presidency of the Confederation of Sahel States. And I would like, on a national level, to make a few additional remarks to his intervention. Mali is pleased to participate in this ceremony dedicated to the launch of the Togo Sahel strategy, which once again demonstrates the country's commitment. Brother Togo is adapting its commitment to the new geopolitical and security realities in order to strengthen regional stability, but also the cooperation between the Sahel states and those of the Gulf of Guinea. In an environment and a world, in a geopolitical environment and a world that is undergoing profound change, I would even say a complete upheaval. In principle, we welcome this renewed initiative by the Togolese government to continue its efforts in favor of peace and sub-regional security, a common good. In terms of approach, it is gratifying that the Togolese authorities have chosen inclusivity by involving all stakeholders. This is particularly true for the specific states that are directly concerned, not only during this official launch ceremony for the Togo Sahel strategy, but also throughout every stage of its future implementation. As a very well-known and wise saying from our country goes, You simply cannot shave someone's head when they are completely absent from the room. It is certainly true that the fundamental pillars upon which this comprehensive strategy is firmly based call for highly concerted, deeply coherent, and unified action that fully respects the sovereignty of all states involved. This approach must also take into careful account the specific requirements and diverse needs of the individual states and the various peoples of the Sahel region, taking into account the legitimate expectations of the populations and addressing the challenges faced by the Sahel countries will contribute to resolving the crises our region is facing. In essence, the Togo Sahel strategy is fully aligned with the vision of our highest authorities to achieve the return of peace and stability in our states and in the Sahel region with a spirit of pragmatism, of realism and wisdom. The primary merit of this strategy is that it comes from a country that has consistently advocated for, and more importantly, practiced dialogue with the Sahel countries, by emphasizing that their situation of political transition should not, in some cases, be used as a pretext to relegate them to the background. Through their ongoing demonization, obviously these Sahel countries, our very own Sahel countries, experience daily and at the heavy cost of the peace and even the precious lives of our people, the devastating crisis that has been unfairly imposed upon them. This situation continues to worsen every single day for everyone involved. Because yes, this crisis did not originate in the Sahel, as we know. It is the consequence of a series of events, some internal certainly, but mostly external, such as the unfortunate Atlantic intervention in Libya. Without retracing the entire history of the security crisis in the Sahel, it is necessary to reach a common understanding of what the terrorist threat is, to gain a deeper understanding of its fundamental root causes, and then to carefully identify the elements that sustain terrorism in order to better combat this threat. And finally, to approach the crisis in a holistic manner, not only in its security dimension, but also by integrating humanitarian, social, economic, institutional, and governance aspects, as well as geopolitical issues, geoeconomic and geostrategic considerations, among others. The heads of state of the Confederation of Sahel States, their excellencies, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, President of FASO, President of the Confederation of Sahel States, General of the Army, Assimi Goïta, President of the Transition, Head of State of Mali, General of the Army, Abdurrahman Chani, President of the Republic of Niger, Head of State, are aligning their national actions, and their confederal action is part of this holistic vision, which takes into account all the parameters of the challenges facing our region. This is how the Confederation of Sahel States bases its dynamic on the triptych of defense, security, diplomacy, and development. The actions planned and those already undertaken all respond to the people's aspirations for peace, security, and development, including, of course, through enhanced integration. At this point in my remarks, I want to emphasize the strengthening of sub-regional integration, because the Confederation of Sahel States aims to promote better integration and greater mingling of populations who are already connected by natural ties, historical ties, bonds of brotherhood, cultural relations, and geographical links that we cannot deny. However, cooperation and regional integration in West Africa must now take into account the geopolitical reconfiguration of our region, marked by the coexistence of two entities that must work together with the aim of safeguarding the interests of West African populations and promoting their aspirations for peace and development in a spirit of solidarity, of mutual respect and complementarity. The tangible result achieved by the Confederation of Sahel States since its creation on July 6, 2024, in Niamey, both in the fight against terrorism, in the coordination of diplomatic action, and in the harmonious development of our region, illustrate the relevance of the decisions made by our heads of state. The AES Confederation has very quickly established itself as an essential geopolitical reality in the sub-region, and in a short time has forged strong relationships with many international partners. International cooperation, especially sub-regional cooperation, is a considerable asset in achieving our shared goals of peace and security. Collaborative regional security frameworks certainly do exist in practice today, but it is very important that we do not overlook the critical need to consider a specific number of prerequisites. The absolute first and most essential prerequisite is, naturally, the active creation or the careful restoration of trust and the fundamental necessity of it. Furthermore, it is crucial for the states in the region, or at least some of them, to completely cease providing any form of material or political support to various terrorist groups or using their own territory to undermine the stability and security of their neighboring countries. Security cooperation also requires putting an end to hosting hostile foreign forces engaged in actions aimed at destabilizing or subverting neighboring states. Regional cooperation in the fight against terrorism requires also the necessity of being able to have the same definition of a terrorist or terrorists. Because today the shifting nature of the fight against terrorism leads us to observe that terrorism is now supported and financed by states. Some states in the region and other states or powers outside our region. Building trust requires that we are able to have a clear-sighted analysis of all these elements. Now, in terms of immediate solutions, it is clear that today we do not have a single framework that allows us to work together in the fight against terrorism. Given this fragmentation and difficulty and the lack of trust, initially and in a pragmatic way, it is possible to consider collaborations on a bilateral basis where it is possible, where there is trust. Between Burkina Faso today and Togo, there is work being done with Ghana, with other countries, wherever it is possible, and later work to broaden the foundation of trust, because we cannot ensure security together if our countries do not trust each other. That too, I believe, is an important element that we must integrate. I acknowledge and welcome today the presence among us of many bilateral and multilateral partners who are interested or involved in the fight against terrorism. However, the situation in the Sahel has required an adjustment of international interventions, as was the case in my country, but also certain regional interventions. As Minister Jean-Marie Traoré pointed out, there are currently many strategies in the Sahel which fundamentally aim for the same objective, that of stabilizing the region, but also with different approaches and methods. Speaking as the official representative of a state that is primarily concerned with this issue, I believe it is useful to once again emphasize the importance during international and regional interventions of placing the vision, the choices, especially political choices, the priorities, expectations, and concerns of those most directly affected. At the center of every intervention, as I have said, you cannot shave someone's head in their absence, once again. In this way, we ensure, on the one hand, essential national involvement, and on the other hand, the success of any external initiative, as well as respect for the sovereignty of states. The interventions of our partners must support the governmental actions of the Sahel states rather than attempting to take the place of our states. This is all the more necessary since, in many cases, the strategies concern sensitive areas, such as political governance in our countries. External interventions would thus benefit from being more aligned with the local vision within a framework of institutional, pragmatic, and respectful complementarity. External interventions must learn from and take into account the limitations and even in some cases the failures of the past. They must move away from models that impose and perpetuate dependency. We must innovate, expand towards endogenous models and approaches, as is the case with AES, approaches that are more sustainable and above all emphasize self-reliance.
Everyone wants to woo this lady. Just last week, Ivory Coast tried to tempt the AES with free custom duties, but Togo has been the true friend in the hour of darkness. When Ecowas wanted to crush Niger, when they wanted to strangle and economically assassinate our brothers, it was Togo that stood firm against the warmongers. Today, the question on everyone's lips is, what is the counter offer? Will the port of Lomé become the official natural exit for the AES? If Togo hits this jackpot, the old empire is finished. We know our leaders in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso have been struggling a lot. because they are landlocked nations. And sometimes people ask, why is Togo not trying to join the alliance of AES? If truly they want to also join in the struggle of Africa. We heard what our leaders said. We are together, but they are also talking about the leaders in Africa who are opening their arms to these people that are doing things against the African. Because we are seeing African leaders in other West African countries going closer to France. Yet these are the people who claim we are one people and we are fighting the common enemy. So if your brother is not in good terms with this same person that is trying to destabilize these nations, why are you signing deals? Why are you dining with them? Why are you not making them your brothers? Like the Ecowas chairperson said, we are one people. Yes, we know we are one people. But what our leaders are doing isn't the best thing. They've mentioned their achievements. And we don't want leaders who are fighting to protect the people in speech. When they finish beating us, they come with the other arm claiming they are here for us. Africans, we can never get anywhere if we think that we can continue to be dividing ourselves in order to suit other people. ECOWAS president said, we are one people and we are doing everything possible to unite, and we must fight against people who are trying to separate us. But we don't see that from African leaders, those in ECOWAS, because the ECOWAS leaders are still doing everything possible to maintain all the things that the oppressor left for us. We should understand that we cannot continue to be thinking about other people coming into the continent, coming into the region to protect us. What is the essence of the ECOWAS standby force? What is the essence of us claiming that we are independent? If we can still not fight to protect ourselves, we cannot get the necessary things that we need to protect ourselves. We see that we are easily used against our own selves. And we want to always please other people because we prefer to be praised by these people who are oppressing us instead of being praised by the people that we are leading. And if Africans cannot have their own model of leadership, then what shows that we are independent people. If we all cannot unite and move away from the people who are oppressing us, then what are we doing to our own selves? What is the unity we are talking about? We are the only ones that can set ourselves free. United we stand, divided we fall. And united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we make Africa great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world, in Africa, West Africa, and in Togo.